Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, we start with the story of Henry Morton Stanley, the explorer who famously uttered the words, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. Next, learn how a tragedy inspired Samuel Morse to develop the Telegraph. Then, enjoy a poem from Ron Wilson. And we'll end with a look at hats and how they help define some of our most iconic images over the years. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Good morning, I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And this is Around Kansas. Good morning to you. It's early Wednesday morning, nearing the end of April.
Nearing the end of April, and Frank, had I realized, I tried to plan for this, had I realized this was our last April show before May Day, I would have brought you a May basket. And maybe I will bring you a May basket after the fact for our first show in May. Because I know how much you've been looking forward to the May basket all year long.
That's right. So it's something from my childhood that I loved, and that was making and giving away May baskets.
So maybe you should just make and give me a May basket. Would that make you happy, Frank, to make a May basket?
You got construction paper, and you made a little cone, and you colored on it.
Can you still?
And then you made a little handle, and then you picked some dandelions and put some candy in it, and took it and hung it on your friend's door, rang the doorbell, and ran away.
Candy and dandelions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what everybody wants to open their door and find. And construction paper. Can you still buy construction?
8 years old.
Can you still buy construction paper?
I believe you can.
And what did you put it together with? Rubber cement?
Well, staples or glue. That. Remember, of course, now we're really going back. I don't think you have them anymore.
The way back
used
machine.
To have this. They were about that tall, and they had a rubber stopper on them. They were full of glue, and you could do this with them.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was the coolest stuff ever because unlike kids today, we didn't have all that stuff at home. You went to school and you had all that cool stuff.
Yes, you did. You had that list of stuff, and you had to have glue and pencils and rulers, and of course, Big Chief tablets. Oh, Big Chief tablets.
I loved those.
That's today's iPad. You see that every now and then on Facebook where somebody said, this was my iPad when I went to school, and it's one of those Big Chief tablets.
We were filming our documentary the other day, and we had the kids filming a scene that was supposed to be 1850. So we've got Carson Norton's two children, Carson and Ashley's kids, and then my grandson. So they're all like 5 to 7, all 4 of these kids, and we gave them all slates. So they've got chalk and they're writing on their slates, and so it was kind of an ad-lib scene. But we tell them now you can't say the word cool they're talking about seashells and sea monsters, but you can't say cool. So they didn't have that word back then, and so they're drawing on their slates and they're just having the best time with that. But after a day of filming, when you ask what did you learn, they didn't have the word cool back then, and that just they didn't have the word cool, how. It was funny. But the slates, they loved the chalk, and it was just white chalk too. It didn't have colored chalk. It was just white chalk on the black slate. Yeah.
So
pretty backward.
Anyway, May Day's coming up.
May Day is coming up.
If you have a May basket, and it's made out of construction paper and has dandelions and candy, there's a good chance it's probably not mine.
I'm coming up with one. I promise. We'll be right back.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. And we're back again.
Okay, this is one of my favorite people in history because when you talk about you can't make up this life. Henry Morton Stanley, and there's a wonderful biography. I don't remember the guy that wrote it, but it's a wonderful biography that's that big on Stanley. The adventurer, he found Dr. Livingstone, and that's why most people know him today. But Henry Morton Stanley, I think, was actually born in Wales. He comes to America. He winds up in the American Civil War, so he's in the Confederate Army. He gets captured, sent to a Yankee prison, and they did what they called galvanizing Yankees. So they basically come in, if you'll join the Union Army, you can get out of prison, and we'll send you to fight somewhere different. Mostly they were sent out west. And so they were called galvanized. Well, he became a galvanized Yankee. He then wound up in the Union Navy. And sources say he may be the only man to serve in both the Confederate Army, the Union Army, and the Union Navy. You really can't make this stuff up. And then he had a career as a journalist, and that's where we pick him up in Kansas. But if there were a historic marker for every place Henry Morton Stanley was, you couldn't turn around in the world without bumping into the marker where Henry Morton Stanley was. And one of my favorite stories about him, other than the one we're going to share with you, there was Bill Thompson shot, stabbed, and scalped up on the UP line in southern Nebraska. And he is the only survivor of this attack, picks up his scalp, walks back to Plum Creek Station, 7 or 8 miles, and then takes a train to Omaha trying to find a doctor to reattach his scalp. Who sees him at the train station? Henry Morton Stanley. And it's like, really? I mean, the man was everywhere, everywhere. And he's got a really cool Kansas connection that we're going to tell you about right now. Dr. Livingston, I presume. Noted explorer Henry Morton Stanley uttered these words in 1871. He had undertaken an expedition to relieve Dr. David Livingstone, who was searching for the source of the Nile. He had not been heard from since his departure in 1866. Stanley's exploration was financed by the New York Herald. It might have been high adventure, but it was grueling travel. During the 700-mile trek through the tropical forest, his thoroughbred stallion died within a few days after a bite from a tsetse fly. Many of his porters deserted, and the rest were decimated by tropical diseases. Nonetheless, Stanley found Livingstone in November of 1871 in present-day Tanzania, and the two entered the realm of legend. Only 4 years earlier, Stanley had found himself in another landscape, the vast and dangerous high plains of Kansas. Stanley was a correspondent for the Missouri Democrat newspaper in St. Louis to cover the Medicine Lodge Peace Treaty. There was, in fact, a true press corps covering the event. He was already a veteran reporter, having spent considerable time on the plains covering military operations. Of particular note is this encounter with the Kiowa chief Satanta. A number of Indians walked in, led by the redoubtable Satanta himself. Satanta seemed beside himself with joy on recognizing your correspondent, and gave him a gigantic bear's hug. Other members of the press looked upon him with some awe, having heard so much of his ferocity and boldness. Stanley's reports are an important piece of this momentous gathering. His exploits made him a household name throughout the world. But next time you hear the words, Dr. Livingston, I presume, you might mention that before he met Livingston, he met Satanta of the Kiowa Nation, and that Satanta gave him a bear hug. There is no mention that Dr. Livingston was as glad to see you.
Clyde Sutton, Nest City, Kansas. Lived on this place all my life. About a year and a half ago, got to where I couldn't saddle a horse. The pain was terrible. Read about stem cell. First it wasn't for me, then they started doing neck and back. Before I went down to Manhattan, the pain I was having from my neck down to my hand was curling my hand back. Some people had thought I almost had a stroke, and my shoulder had drawed up. I couldn't lift, I couldn't sleep, I really couldn't do anything, and was scheduled to be operated on, but was scared of the knife, I guess. Went and had it done. As you can see, I saddled a horse. I'm still building fence. Love to shoot a shotgun rifle, and I'm able to participate, not like I used to, but nevertheless I can do the things I used to do. And I want to personally thank the doctors, nurses, staff at Kansas Regenerative Medicine for the opportunity they give me to have my life back again.
Fort Wallace stood on the frontier in the midst of the Plains Indians Wars on a major stage route and rail line. Beside the 1865 stagecoach station, a modern museum with thousands of artifacts tell that story, like the fossil of a 40-foot plesiosaur is suspended from the ceiling. Located on Highway 40 midway between Hayes and Colorado Springs, the Fort Wallace Museum is as welcome a sight today as the fort itself in the 1860s. Discover the fightingest sport in the West. This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
What's that? Timmy's in a well? Is that what you're trying to say, Lassie? Okay. Well, Dr. Jake is going to kill me. He's been working on this telegraph, getting these pieces to work because he wants to set up a telegraph demonstration in July. And so we've got these telegraph parts, and I swear he had it all working so that if you actually tapped here, it would come over here. Huh. And in I was going to say in my just moving it, but no, it's just my touching it. It's just being in my presence that it just all... Okay, that obviously is not right. All right, I don't know. I'm sorry, honey. I blew it. But you get the picture. So can you imagine relying on this to get a message to somebody?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was.
It was the iPhone of its day, wasn't it? It was.
That was high tech.
It was high tech.
I haven't seen one of these in a long, long time.
Is that how you got messages when you were a kid, Frank?
Yes, it was. Please come home now.
The telegraph, of course, was a big deal, and especially, in the middle of America, you're connecting both coasts, and you're connecting. The telegraph, of course, follows the railroad across America, and it is very, very important for a long time until Steve Jobs and all this stuff came along. But you got a pretty cool story coming up about the telegraph.
Yes,
it's wild.
Yeah.
What a history! All right, this is a pretty cool story.
We can speak to anyone around the world, see them while we speak, and it happens instantly and cheaply. In this era, it is difficult to imagine how miraculous the telegraph was. The telegraph was a machine invented in the early 1800s. It made use of electricity, which was still somewhat of a novelty at the time, to transmit messages. A very early version, created by a German inventor, was an electrochemical telegraph. It was a very complicated machine and required the analysis of bubbles that were released to correspond with certain letters. Other versions followed until 1837, when another American inventor, Samuel Morse, developed a new model of an electric telegraph, along with a very unique way of communicating with it. There were several other inventors at the time who were also trying to get recognition for their telegraph prototypes, but in the end, it was Morse who succeeded in the legal battle. Morse, a native of Massachusetts, was heavily involved in math and science studies, specifically those relating to electricity. When he received a note delivered by a messenger one day, he was horrified to read that she was seriously ill. By the time he arrived to see her, his dear wife had already died. Despite the tragedy, his grave incident inspired Morse to develop a better and faster system of communication. After learning about electromagnets, Morse used them to develop a telegraph system. He filed a patent for it and also came up with a system of Morse code to communicate through his new machine. Unlike earlier languages and codes, Morse code was so simple that it could be duplicated in audio, light flashes, or print. It was essentially a system of dots and dashes in print that corresponded with each letter of the alphabet. Morse code became such a successful way to communicate that it became the main way that telegraphs functioned around the world. When World War II broke out, telegraph systems experienced a massive surge as they allowed troops and leaders to communicate discreetly over very long distances. Many post offices were also outfitted with the telegraph machine so that they could receive and deliver telegrams for citizens. However, by the time telephones started to come into public use, the need for telegrams started to decline, and eventually the technology was largely phased out.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Find out more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Howdy folks, I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. Those of us who live out here in the middle of the country get used to one thing, and that is the weather's going to change. This poem is entitled, Just Wait a Minute, It'll Change. We've had lots of winter weather, so when we got a thaw, the chance to get outside was really quite a draw. It felt like cabin fever, so I was glad to get outside. Cleaned a feeder, built some fence, and managed to get in a horse ride. I stripped down to my shirt sleeves and got a whole lot of good work done, and found it was the spring's first exposure to the sun. The next day I was in the house a-paying some ranch bills when I heard a clap of thunder roll across the nearby hills. I tuned into the weather, and they proceeded to inform that a wave of snow might follow a local thunderstorm. I just shook my head and went back to working on the books when what I saw out the window made me take a second look. Big, fat, wet snowflakes were falling from the sky. It looked like a full-fledged blizzard passing by. I finished up my paperwork and bundled up to do my chores and found the sun shining brightly across the great outdoors. It made me think about the weather pattern in this Kansas land. It'll change so dadgum fast that it is hard to understand. And I said to my wife as the weather made its turn, you know you live in Kansas when it snows on your sunburn. Happy trails.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from Doc Talk. Have you asked yourself, how can I help provide relief to wildfire victims? Well, you can go to the Ashland Community Foundation, or you can go to the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation and make monetary gifts. Another way, you can buy this beautiful print that was painted by Dr. Eva Gardner of the Gardner Angus Ranch of Ashland and Clark County area before the fire. This painting will be sold through the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation, and all proceeds will be provided to victims of the wildfire.
Buffalo Bill Cody earned his legendary title in Oakley. Bring the family and come celebrate Oakley's pioneering history and unique geography at two sites, the Buffalo Bill Cultural Center and the Fick Fossil Museum. Cody's statue marks his achievements and welcomes visitors to the Cultural Center. The Fick Fossil Museum houses world-class fossils and artifacts. You'll find Oakley at the hub of U.S. Highways 83 and 40 and I-70. Stop for the legend. Stay for the day. Discover Oakley. This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter. We're back. I mean, the hat reminds me of the Nat King Cole song, Lazy, Hazy Days, Hazy, Crazy Days of Summer.
Something always reminds you of a song, doesn't it?
Yes,
right?
It does, but I mean, it looks very summery.
Thank you. It does look very summery.
Yes.
I love hats. I really do. And I was probably born in the wrong era. Hats just aren't as big a deal as they used to be, but they're still a fashion statement, and they protect us from the hot sun, and they serve all kinds of cool purposes, advertising and everything else. Everybody that wants to advertise buys a cap, don't they, and put their logo on it and all that cool stuff. So when did you start wearing hats?
I don't know. It's been a few years now. I think what it was, I mean, there really is hair under here, folks, but thing is not much. But I think that was part of it because I had heard that in the wintertime, that you lost a lot of the heat out of the top of your head.
Yeah.
So I started wearing a hat. Well, the thing is, then it's just like, I like this hat too, and that one, and that one, and that one. And pretty soon I had this incredible collection of hats.
Do you remember when you were a kid, though, everybody wore hats?
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Sunday especially.
Oh, yeah. All the men wore fedoras.
Yeah, and my grandfathers wore a hat all day, every day.
Yeah.
They took it off when they came in the house.
But do you know when that ended?
No.
When John Kennedy became president. He didn't wear a hat. It killed the hat industry.
I didn't know that. And of course, Harry Truman was a big hat guy,
But John Kennedy
goodness.
did not wear a hat.
And that was like the whole new young generation and everything. But Jackie Kennedy made the pillbox hat.
And wore.
Yeah. But John Kennedy, I did not realize that. Even Ike wore a hat for his inaugural, even though he didn't wear. Wow. You learn something every day.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at hats.
Easter is the unofficial beginning of spring, the signal of renewal and rebirth, the official okay to begin wearing white shoes and slacks. Traditionally, Easter has also been marked by the donning of a new outfit, or at least a new hat. References to new hats, or at least newly refurbished hats for spring, go back for centuries. Hats may not be the fashion staple they were, but they remain an important part of not only our wardrobe, but our status, and a real clue to where we're from. Lots of cowboy hats, for example, in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, not so many at JFK in New York. From hard hats to army caps, they announce how we make a living. Hats reveal who we cheer for and which seeds we plant. Hats have helped define some of our most iconic images over the years. Davy Crockett in the coonskin cap, Napoleon in his bicorn, Queen Elizabeth in her color-coordinated, floral-adorned, somewhat sensible headpieces, Jackie Kennedy's iconic pillbox, Carmen Miranda's fruit baskets turned hats, Lincoln's stovepipe, the cat in the hat, John Wayne's ever-present Stetson, Audrey Hepburn's elaborate and large swooping hat from My Fair Lady, the samurai's kabuto, the vaquero's sombrero, the Viking's horned helmet, the Wicked Witch's pointy headgear, Odd Job's deadly bowler from James Bond's Goldfinger, Sherlock Holmes' familiar deerstalker, the all-powerful sorting hat that decided to place Harry Potter in Gryffindor Hall rather than Slytherin, and the list goes on and on. The right hat makes or breaks an outfit, changes the mood, commands respect, or invites laughter. While the milliner's job may not feature as much custom work as once upon a time, The variety of hats that hit the market for spring and summer are endless. The prices are just as infinite, and their ability to transform the mundane into the magnificent as strong as ever.
A tip of the hat, I'm Frank,
I'm Deb.
and we'll see you somewhere
Around Kansas.
Welcome to Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy Street.